The recording has started, Daniel. Good evening. How are you doing, buddy?
Yes. Good evening, Mirko. I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah. So at first of all, Happy New Year to all our loyal listeners and audience out there in the world. It's been a little while since we've done the last session, but now we've got a hot topic. Cars, it is. What are we going to do tonight, Daniel? Quick intro. What's up?
Yeah, so it's late January, and we finally got some data for 2023 Chinese car market, and I think it's quite exciting. So you remember last year to Shanghai Motor Show that sent a couple of shock waves through the industry when a lot of people went back there and took a look at some of the cars, and they were completely stunned at the level of some of these new vehicles coming out there. And we were seeing last year an amazing number of great products coming to the market, and also the trend that the world is getting more clean emission vehicles continues rapidly in China. So today we put a little bit some data together, and also some trends, some highlights, some interesting new models. To give you a little bit an overview of what's going on recently, and it's continues to be super dynamic and exciting. So I still believe that China will send shockwaves around the world. So this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Danny, I think not everybody's amazed when you look at Mrs. von der Leyen and what's happening in Brussels. I think shock and being scared is maybe the more apt description of sentiment here in the European Union, and maybe also in the US. By the way, I got myself a beer in good old car fashion. I hope you don't mind. It's late already, but I'm really looking forward to this. And why don't we start and take a look at a few of the numbers?
Yeah, very good. So I think firstly, this is a chart here copied from the industry association. I think the figure is amazing. The figure you see here for 23 is 30 million cars, right? So, and this obviously is complete industrial output. This includes the commercial vehicles and passenger cars and everything, and also export. But Chinese automotive industry output 30 million for the first time. I mean, that's a huge figure. I mean, considering that globally we were talking about volume between 70 to 80 million, so that's really huge. And there's a growth of 12%, so it looks good. Of course, in reality, we know it's not that rosy. I mean, the market is such a fierce competition. There's such a tremendous price war going on. So a lot of car companies are struggling and having very thin margins or losing money, and a lot of startups are still with the back to the wall. So despite these figures look good, it's a cutthroat competition. There's a consolidation going on. And
one thought I have, Daniel, very quickly. Sorry to interrupt, but when you look at this, it's kind of because I've been looking at a lot of companies lately, and there's always the impact of COVID, right? And here, looking at the graph, there is a little bit of an impact, but really not that much. It's kind of, going up and up and up. Is there any reason to that?
So I think you see the peak was in 2017, right? And people believed afterwards, 18, 19, there was no COVID. The market went down. And people believed that 2017 the market had peaked and that we would be looking forward to a more consolidated market. Then obviously COVID didn't go down much more, right? And it kept somehow on a level. We know that even during COVID, it renormalized pretty soon in China. And even during 23, people believed the market wouldn't top the peak year of 2017. But the last quarter was a huge push. Very much driven also by NEVs and also by exports. You have to keep this in mind. So these figures include exports. It's not just the local China sales. And in 23, the export figure is close to 5 million vehicles. So that's amazing. And it seems China clearly taking the number one position now as vehicle exporter globally. And I guess that's going to continue to drive further growth, right? Like the Chinese passenger car vehicle market is pretty much saturated. Of course, what we are seeing is the shift to new energy vehicles. We don't have the good data, let's say, for pure EVs. That means 100% battery and obviously the plug-in hybrids and range extended vehicles. In China, it's all combined to NEVs. But this figure in China exceeded 9 million units and has a now top 30% of the total market. It's a very high penetration. I mean, if you compare that with Europe, it's still around 17%, so it's much higher. And very interesting is in December, the new energy vehicle sales in China topped 1 million. Also in November, the first 2 months. And in December, the penetration of NEVs was already at 37%. So we really see this uptake of the S-curve. So it is not going to stop. So the gasoline cars are going to disappear. It's going to phase out in the next 3 to 5 years. And even I believe plug-in hybrids, range extender will phase out. So we clearly see a trend to pure EVs.
But can I challenge this, Daniel, for a little bit? Because in 23, when you look at this, the sales increases for the battery electric vehicles, it was just 28%. But for the plug-in hybrids, it was 85%. So there is a segment in the market that still feels more comfortable with the plugins, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, firstly, plugins, of course, were coming from a much lower base. But also you're right, because this is part of the transition. A lot of the, let's say, incumbent players choose, right? Like similar like in Europe. So for them, it's easier not to radically switch from ICE to pure EV. They go for plug-in hybrid. And we have to admit some of those models were pretty successful also for BYD. Yeah, so they also have a big share of PHEVs. And there's companies like Li Auto with their range extender, they're very successful. But if you look a little bit in the pipeline, what these companies are working, the new cars and so on, then we really see that's gonna transition to EV. So despite right now, it looks like PEVs are the thing of the future. I don't think so, right? So this is gonna change. Same in Europe. If you look at it right now, you still see this, but if you look at the pipeline, it's better. And if you develop a car, a new platform with range extender or plug-in hybrid and electric, it's never gonna be a most efficient platform. You get a bad compromise. So if you really want, in terms of packaging, a highly efficient car which can compete with Tesla, you need to go for a pure EV.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we also, of course, with my background from the BMW side, I'm always interested in the premium segment. So I put together a lot of figures, but I think it's very interesting. So maybe I go to the next chart first. Yeah? So these are 20 premium brands in China. And this is the ranking based on the NEV sales. Yeah? So the total NEV sales of premium, they topped 2 million cars in last year. So out of 4.6 million, this is quite a lot. Yeah. And if you rank these brands by their 23 sales here, you can see Tesla is the clear number one, 600,000 units. This also includes the export. But then from 2 to 6, you see 5 Chinese brands. Yeah? And maybe some of our colleagues from Mercedes, BMW, Audi will not agree that these are premium players, Li Auto, NIO, Xiaopeng, Denza, Zeekr, Aito. But in my point of view, in terms of pricing, customer perception, there's no doubt that these guys are playing in the premium league. And you can see Li Auto did an amazing job. They sold 370,000 cars. Basically only with one car. I mean, it's 3 derivatives of one platform. Obviously, it's a range extender, but it's amazing success, right? And they have a pipeline of new models. For NIO and Xiaopeng, they made a great step forward, topping 150, 160,000 units. Denza, very successful. Zeekr, the premium brand of Geely. Aito, the Huawei, Sokon Motors Corporation. And then on place 7, you have BMW, a little bit below 100,000 unit, and Mercedes. So, of course, this is only the NEV part of the premium. So this is, so to say, only 44% of the volume.
Yeah.
But if you extrapolate this a little bit in the future, it doesn't look so bright for the German brands. So I've shown this here on this on this next.
Can you quickly go back, and then, because I have to ask. I mean, as you know, I'm a big fan of Li Auto, and I mean, you don't have to be a genius looking at this graph to basically ask the question: what is behind this enormous outperformance by Li Auto? Because when you look at 2022, and I remember looking at the monthly sales numbers for Li Auto, NIO, Xiaopeng, as they're called the Wei Xiao Li, right? The three of them as the new sort of entrants in the car OEM arena. But like, what happened there with Li Auto? This is just incredible, that performance.
Yeah, I think we made a few videos on this last year, right? Like talking about Li Auto, and I think probably we could make an extra session because it's an amazing showcase. And I think also this is clearly the leader from all of the startups, the winner. And you know, they have a target this year to top ABB, right? So to top them in terms of the total volume. And it's a combination. So it's the founder. It's their way to cost saving, to really make a big margin on this car, which has an attractive price. But I think the most important point is it's an outstanding product. It's just one product. It's not a lot of product. It's not a lot of different options. It's one car, one equipment. Of course, now it's 3 derivatives and some new models coming. But the product is just perfect position. And the founder, Mr. Li Xiang himself, he is the biggest product manager out there. So he is managing this himself. It's amazing success and asset light. And I think they have the biggest potential, in my view, to become a true, let's say, independent OEM, which can challenge traditional players. Similar like Tesla, and they haven't even started to go out of China, right? So that's
exactly.
Yeah.
That's an interesting part, right? That they really haven't focused on going overseas, burning a lot of money like NIO and Xiaopeng have. But because you just said BBA, maybe just for the viewers, can you quickly explain what BBA stands for and why they are afraid of Li Auto?
Yeah, so that's the 3 German premium brands: BMW, Benz, so Mercedes-Benz, that's the second B, and Audi. So they used to dominate the premium segment in China with more than 2/3 market share. And still, it's amazing volume for them, more than 600,000 cars. I think their official figures show 800,000 cars, but it includes some other brands like Mini and so on. But the scary thing for them is that their share of NEVs is small. So the customers are not buying their NEVs, the customers just buying their gasoline cars. And if this journey, with this rapid increase of NEV penetration go on, the absolute volume is gonna decrease in the future. Yeah, so 2 more slides here to show. So the total premium segment, you can see, grew from close to 4 million to 4.6 million. It's like 17%, something like that. And among that, the penetration of NEVs went up from 31 to 44%. So the NEVs grew by 72%. So that's a very strong trend. And then the interesting thing we are talking about this already is to look at a share of the Chinese brands. So if you look at these NEVs in here, the 1.2 million in 22 and the plus 2 million in 23, the premium NEVs, then the share of Chinese brands here went up from 51 to 60%. They grew by nearly 100%. So this is a very strong trend. If we go back to my overall chart here, you can see the individual, the total sales here. For example, on that side here, we can still see that the total sales, the 4.6 million, that the three German brands, the BBA, they still have together a little bit more than 40% of the market, so they're still very dominant. But if we go to the share in the NEV side, their share together is less than 10%. So that's quite strong. And it's amazing to see the rise of these Chinese brands. And I think for Li Auto, I'm not sure, but most of these other brands are starting to go global now. NIO is here in Europe already, Xiaopeng as well. Denza also has some plans. Zeekr is entering Europe. Aito is under the Zeres brand here. Red Flag is in Europe. Voya is entering Europe. And the others are planning to do that. So all these brands, they're highly competitive in China, and they're starting to go global. And this is only the premium segment. So if you look at the volume segment, and the brands like Volkswagen and Ford and Nissan and Toyota, the picture is even more extreme. Like Chinese brands replacing foreign brands, and the share of Chinese brands going up rapidly. And in the past, the Chinese brand, during nearly 15 to 20 years, Chinese brands used to have a share between 20 to 30% of the total market, and exclusively in the low end, below 100,000 brand B. So, and this is now out of 20 brands here, we have 10 Chinese, which can be considered as premium. This is pretty amazing, I would say.
Just out of curiosity, Daniel, which of these brands are you specifically working with, if you so free to disclose here in our session?
Yeah, so we are running our business out of Switzerland to build a bridge for Chinese brands coming to Europe, to help them, and also not advise them only, but also help them to build up the sales and distribution infrastructure. So in Switzerland, we already have a network and some partnership with Dongfeng and the Voya brand, and also with Sokon Motors and the Zeres brand. And we're talking to quite a lot of brands on this chart here who are still not here and still talking about it. And it's very exciting. Of course, on the other side, the products here are strong, but for those players to enter Europe is not that easy. So it's a big challenge to build the brand, to build the service, to get customer trust. And you can imagine, the European consumers is confused. They can't, a normal consumer, not a car guy like us, they can't remember all these brands. So that's a big challenge for these guys, to build this up, and this is something we are trying to help them. Yeah, so I also put some interesting trends in the market, some small issues. We see, for example, that now there's a new model of Xiaopeng, the X9. During Guangzhou Motor Show, it was one of the hottest models. They have the rear wheel steering as a standard option, which used to be really a very high-end luxury option. So we see a trend towards really high tech in Chinese vehicles, and this becoming more and more standard. This is just one example.
As a layman, Daniel, can you explain, what does that mean? What's special about this?
Oh yeah, it just means you have overall greater maneuverability with the car. You have a better turn circle. You have better control of the car, better car parking, better luxury during driving. And it's technology-wise, it's more challenging because both axles have basically a steering included. So that's a function you need to switch on when you want to use it, or is that always on? That most of the times will be used then if you have that option. So that is included. And another point is, of course, we know in China now this whole UI UX topic, of course, is taking completely off. So the chips are very important for that. So the newest Qualcomm chip is the 8295 chip, is becoming standard getting into a lot of new cars and having a much higher performance. So we are really getting cars now which are supercomputers in terms of computing power, entertainment power, connectivity, and so on.
Is that, Danny, a quick question just in terms of the US sanctions on many of the sort of the high-tech chips, the sort of the 5 nanometer, 7 nanometers, are these part of the restrictions? Are the Chinese EV brands going to suffer from that, not being available to them anymore?
Yeah, it seems not. I'm not 100% sure where this chip is produced, if it's in Taiwan or wherever, but
yeah, that's TSMC for sure. Yeah,
this is directly impacted by sanctions.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are talking about 800 volts. So most of the electric cars coming out in the last few years, they were still lower voltage, and there's a clear trend that say all of these premium brands we were looking at, the more high-end brands, the new platforms they're developing, they're all on an 800 volt technology, and this is quite important because 800 volt, that gives much higher charging speed and is state of the art. So, and I think here they are not behind any Western OEM now in terms of developing this. Of course, this goes in line also with new battery technologies, but it's quite exciting to see what's going to come out there in the next 2-3 years. Yeah, then also something we noticed with entertainment, there was a car here in the Ito M9 that was a huge highlight in the last few months when this car came out, because it's the first automotive grade projection screen in the car, in the rear seat. So it's really a full cinema in your car. And so Ito, which is basically Sokon Motors cooperation with Huawei, the shares of Sokon Motors, I think they tripled. They're very hot. There's a lot of pre-orders for this car. And this is, of course, also a trend is going to continue. The cars become a digital mobile living space, right? Like there's something we initiated with Byton to go into this direction. And we see that in all brands now getting more and more advanced. And then also one thing, the head-up display in cars, so this is the projection to your windscreen, is getting a standard option. And we see a lot of augmented reality, AR, coming in for navigation or avatars or projections of the camera outside on your screen, which basically give you real navigation. You see the real picture from the outside with an arrow on that, so you know where you can go. So much more easier, much more safe. It's also a trend towards more technology in the car. And last but not least, one big trend is we see a lot of MPV concepts on the EV side. Not just standard MPVs, but very interesting, more crossover concepts, family-styled cars. So you see here the Denza, the Voya Dream, the Zeekr car. Li Auto has announced an amazing new concept for the family MPV. Also the Xiaopeng X9, which was super hot at Guangzhou Motor Show, and also from Guangzhou Automotive. So we see a lot of concepts there. I think it's a big trend to a kind of functional family car on the EV side.
Yeah, you see something, as you know, Daniel, from our days in Beijing. I've always been in the market for these MPVs, and it's one of the things that you just can't find in Germany, right? I mean, I remember the two of us being on the going to the ERR here in Munich, and you've seen the Chinese showcasing those MPVs, and with their really sort of spacious seat arrangements in the back. Just thinking of my 3 kids and always fighting, sitting on the back bench, sort of each one next to each other, and just, you know, in China these MPVs are just amazing concepts, but we just don't have them. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So this car here on the right, the Voya Dream, we are bringing that to Switzerland right now. So we see quite some interest. It's not so many private people, but a lot of shuttle services, hotels. They're quite interested about this car. So I think there's potential. It's a car
Which
like
one?
this.
Which one is it, Daniel? On the right,
on the
top.
on the top right. Yeah, this
okay.
is the Voyage Dream from Dongfeng.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah. So this is just a few trends and highlights. The one thing which is very interesting is about talking about 2024. Because I want to put this as a word of caution. It's a bloody competition, right? Not everyone is gonna survive. It's still an unbelievable price war. Tesla just did another round of price cuts globally. 4,000-5,000 they cut away. And, we just talked about the market figures, right? Like the total passenger car market sales were 23-24 million last year. The NEVs out of that were 9 million. And only this year, if you add up the top 20 OEMs in the market and the targets which they announced, you will end up with more than 20 million NEVs. So that's shows you that everyone is going into it, everyone is pushing there. Of course, the price war will continue. These cars will keep on getting cheaper. I mean, you see BYD announced the target of 4.5 to 5 million cars. You see Chery with 4 million cars. Guangzhou Automotive 2.75, Chang'an 2.4, Tesla 2.2. Geely 1.9, then the Great Wall 1.9. Li Auto wants to do 800,000. That's what I said. They want to beat BBA. That's the volume which the German brands are doing. You see Ion from Guangzhou Automotive, the EV brand. You see the Aito with 600,000 and so on. So it's very aggressive. The capacities are coming up. So it's going to be amazing, but a lot of these brands are starting to export more. Right now in Europe, there's maybe close to 10 Chinese brands. There's another 10 to 15 brands who are going to enter Europe in 2024.
I was just about to say, Daniel, I mean, it's exactly why I mentioned van der Leyen earlier in during our session, because it's basically the overcapacity that just gets exported, right? And that's why the worries in Europe of this being sort of heavily subsidized, or at least in the past it has been. And so now it's just coming our way. And if you think about the cover on the last Economist, basically like asteroids flying onto the Western world, but this time it's Chinese cars, and they're coming.
Yeah, of course, we don't want to see our European automotive industry to break down. But on the other side, we urgently need a solution to get an emission-free mobility below 30,000 euro. And the European OEMs are not solving that issue. I mean, they're moving a little bit toward this direction, like Stellantis did with their new Citroën model and so on. But the guys who can help us with this right now is the Chinese OEMs. And I think good industry policy will be to foster more cooperation, win-win cooperation, also to bring more of these players to localize in Europe or do cooperations in Europe. But in my view, the game for the very cheap EVs, 20,000 euro, even less, this is already over. It's too late for Europe here to really catch up.
Yeah. And to be fair, there was a lot of sort of Chinese propaganda on that Economist title page there, and what it might mean. If you had looked at the actual article, the leader article in the Economist, then you wouldn't have missed the subheadline, which was basically saying, yeah, and maybe we should welcome them for exactly the reason that you just stated, for getting the planet to become greener.
Yeah, I mean, that's something which makes me regularly quite angry, right? I mean, it's a fair question to talk about, let's say, not completely letting our automotive industry getting destroyed. But on the other side, what have they done for Europe towards CO2 emission? They're finding just more and more excuses to delay and pulling out pollution to the environment, instead of moving towards a clear emission-free future. So that makes me pretty angry. Yeah, so I still have a few pictures if you like to flip through.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what people really want to see. What have we
Yeah.
got? What's coming our way? Let's showcase some of them.
Yeah, so some of my favorites. So Xiaopeng, I think they're doing amazing job with this car. Yeah? So during Guangzhou Motor Show, this is an MPV crossover. People had to queue up half an hour to take a look at this car. It was so hot. Yeah, it's not in the market yet, but I think this is a winner, right?
I love it. I love it already, Daniel. I mean, just seeing the
Yeah.
sliding door. I mean, it's just the perfect family car right there.
Yeah, I think so. And look at the space in the car. It's a very
Oh
good
my God.
packaging. It's not something you get in a gasoline car with the same size. I mean, I think it's really well done. And of course, I don't need to mention Xiaopeng. The digital in-car experience is probably the best from all players. So it's a great car. Yeah, and comfortable as a family car. Interesting, Guangzhou Automotive, in my view, one of the real secret tips. Ion brand has been in China the fastest growing EV brand, even faster than BYD. And they have another brand, electric brand. It's a kind of volume semi-premium brand. It's called Huawei. And they launched this car. It's maybe 30,000 euros. And this is a great car. It has this wing doors, looks great, has a great range up to 770 based on Chinese standard. Pricing wise, not too expensive. Yeah, very nice design. Kind of crossover, mid-size SUV. So, and I've heard that it might also come to Europe this year. So I think an interesting product. At least I like it very much. And that is a player a lot of people haven't heard about in Europe yet, but it's going to come.
They might have to work on the name Haubo, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's right. That might not be the best. Then Voya from Dongfeng. So Dongfeng, I think they did a great job. This premium brand called Lantu, and this is the third car. It's a sedan. It's already launched in China, and it's also coming to Europe. A great, big, very well designed sedan called Passion. Exciting product with the big screen, very comfortable driving, good experience. And price wise, of course, this is a premium car, but it's priced around 30% below the German premium brands.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, then the new global number one, BYD, they have also launched this off-road super luxury brand, Yangwang, and the U8. So this is a very martial, aggressive model off-road vehicle with a lot of functionality. So that might not be a big market in Europe, but it's interesting technology-wise to look at that. That gets a lot of attention. Of course, these players like BYD, they're doing that also for reputation and image to build these kind of super flagship models. And still 5 years ago, that would have been impossible. Any Chinese OEM build a car like this.
Just thinking, Range Rover must be running, trying to find a place to hide when I see that. Right? I mean, that's aimed at them, right? I mean, it's
for sure.
clear.
There is no fully electric version from a great Range Rover, so I would never go for a Range Rover anymore if I would like this segment. You see the interior, of course, is quite special. It has, of course, all the functionality, special colors. Yeah, Zeekr is also an interesting brand. This Zeekr in Chinese is the luxury EV brand from Geely. Of course, Geely also has Volvo and Polestar, but this is really their own brand. It's not derived from Volvo. It's really their own EV brand. They have a headquarter in Europe, in Amsterdam, have a R&D center in Göteborg. And this is also targeted to make their own IPO in 2024. And they have a very nice portfolio of good-looking cars in the pipeline. This is also their sedan, the 007, very well designed. I think it's a great roof design, the interior.
And if you can stop here for a second, when you look at the logo, people already are familiar with this because we do have Lynk & Co in the market, which is a PHEV here in Germany that has exactly the same logo. Funnily, so I wonder what they're going to do about this when they enter the European market, because right now they share that icon, that logo there. Same company, obviously, so Lynk & Co does belong to Geely, but it's interesting how they're going to solve that.
Yeah, so I think this is really the Zeekr logo. The Lynk & Co, it is on their cars, but the real Lynk & Co logo is really their name, this Lynk & Co. This is really the logo.
But you have that same logo on the steering wheel, Daniel.
Yeah, I know they use that, and I think they have to clean that up. So so obviously they have, of course, Geely has Volvo and Polestar in Europe. They have Lynk & Co, they have Zeekr, and they have more brands coming. So it's also a player to watch, I guess. I mean, this is definitely a better Tesla, from my point of view. I mean, compared with this car, I don't know why you would still go for a Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah. Then Chang'an is a very interesting player. It's also one of the top 5 OEMs in China. And they have launched this, I would say it's a semi-premium brand. I haven't included that in the premium brands before. It's called Shenlan, launched 2 models. I think the English name of this brand is Deepa. They're also going to come to Europe in 24. And these are 2 better, let's say, Tesla clones. The S7 is really positioned at the Model Y. I mean, this looks a little bit like a Lamborghini here. You see you have these very nice design. The Aito, I think we talked about this. This is Sokon Motors Ceres with Huawei, and this Vendier M9 was very hot. So in the market, big family SUV with this big screen inside, also very spacious, cool design. And one more affordable car from BYD. That's a big the brother of this other car, which we say also a big SUV, but at quite affordable price. So just to look at this. And last but not least, Xiaopeng also has a smaller SUV targeted at Model Y. This car already launched in China, very attractively priced, around $30,000. And this car also going to enter Europe by middle of 2024. It's also very well designed. I think looks better than a Model Y. Interior smooth, great digital functionality. You have this function, you can lie down completely in this car, despite this is just a mid-size car. And I think Xiaopeng doing a good job. Zhijie is another corporation from Huawei called Luxeed S7. This got a lot of attention also in China, this vehicle, because Huawei put a lot of efforts and resources in that. So this car has a lot of hardware and all the software from Huawei, and also looks highly futuristic. Is just launched recently. And that's it. It's just a quick wrap up, running through a few nice highlights I wanted to share.
I mean, suffice it to say, Daniel, I think we can both agree that what we've just seen is sort of a look into the future, but it's a future that's almost at our doorsteps, as you said, and it's coming our way. And frankly, just going back to that Economist article, I have to say, why not let the consumer look at these products, priced as they are, and the technology behind it? And you know this from your own Byton experience, that many of these startups, they build the car, they designed the car around the consumers, and a very different way of thinking about to actually do a car, as opposed to what the traditional OEMs do. And I think this, could be this is a beautiful future that I see there. And so thanks for sharing this, Daniel.
Yeah, it's good, and we're gonna try to keep a bit more regular reporting and updates. So I think this year it's gonna continue. We see a lot of interesting trends and development. And if you find this interesting or have questions, please let us know in the comments. We will be happy to make more deep dives on interesting topics.
Awesome, Daniel. Thank you for your time. Great sharing to the viewers. As Daniel just said, please let us know what you would like us to talk about next time. I think this was a load of really new, interesting insights into China's EV industry, and be sure to hear from us soon again. Thanks for your time, Daniel, and hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and